Welcome to Son of a Glitch. Join us as we explore some of the internet's craziest glitch stories. Story 1. I don't usually post stuff like this, but something happened during my recent trip to Germany, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. I feel like I need to write it down somewhere. Maybe someone has experienced something similar. A couple of weeks ago, I traveled to Munster to meet a close friend. One afternoon, we were chilling in a small, quiet park. Not a tourist place or anything. We were just laying on the grass when this old man, maybe 65 or 70, came up to us. He had green eyes, long hair, dressed normally, not homeless, but something felt off. He started speaking to us in a language that sounded like German, but it wasn't. He was talking super fast and making weird hand gestures, like a love sign, and movements that felt like he was trying to share energy or love with us. My friend whispered that we should just ignore him, that he didn't seem normal. So we did, and eventually he left. A few days later, we went to Berlin for a huge Palestine protest. There were like 60,000 people there. After it ended, we were laying down again in a random spot with other people around. My friend was talking to a girl, and I was on my phone. I randomly looked up and saw the same man from the park in Munster. Same guy, same face, same clothes, same hand gestures, same energy. I ran to my friend and told him. We were both shocked. We approached him, but he didn't seem to recognize us. Still, he did the same thing, same weird speech, same hand signs. At this point, we were just confused and a little freaked out. What are the chances of running into the exact same man, in a completely different city, doing the exact same thing? But that's not even the end of it. A couple days later, we were in a bar. My friend went outside to smoke, and a man in his 40s came up to him and randomly started a conversation. Nothing too strange. Then 2 nights later, we were at a club, and that same man showed up again. He walked past us, said hello, and sat somewhere not too close. About 40 minutes later, I suddenly felt someone tap my shoulder. I turned around, and it was that same guy, holding a pen and insisting that I take it. I told him no, it's not mine, but he kept holding it out toward me, like he really wanted me to take it. The vibe was really strange. My friend and I looked at each other, and we just felt off. So we left the club right after. Later, we kept thinking about it and wondering if these 2 guys were somehow connected. One kept repeating a message about love. The other kept trying to give me a pen, which felt more symbolic than random. Both appeared twice, both in completely different places, both out of nowhere. We're still trying to process it all. If anyone's ever had anything like this happen, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're open to any kind of interpretation, spiritual, logical, psychological, just trying to make sense of it. Story 2. Okay, so I'm not sure what has happened here, because sometimes I honestly just can't trust my brain that much. A lot of times I'm 100% sure about what happened. I visited a friend at his apartment for the very first time, and I saw that he has 3 cats, and 2 of them were identical, like fully black, and one was brown. He told me their names, and things were fine. We hung out normally, and as I was saying goodbye, and went to pet the cats, as I was petting the black one, I asked, how can you tell the difference between this one and the other black cat? He was confused and asked, what black cat? I said the other black one, and he was like, I only have one. I was like, wait, what, they were 3 just now? And I looked around, there was only 2. I was confused AF, and I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't, and I still think about it a lot. Since it happened 2 weeks ago. Story 3. I'm genuinely astounded. This just happened moments before typing this. I still don't know what to think. I was just eating a piece of pizza, a pre-bed snack, nothing irregular. I was standing in front of my desk, chomping away, when I go to bite and loose piece goes tumbling toward the floor. Toward the floor. Right before it hit the ground, it just was gone. I don't know how else to describe it. It blinked or was deleted, or however you want to imagine it. The shit was just there, and the split second it was going to hit my carpet, it just phased out of existence. Yes, my floor is clean. Yes, I searched my entire room, not just the desk. There wasn't even a drop of oil or stain on the carpet where it would have landed. It would have been very noticeable if there were. The weird part was, it was like I noticed a shock in my body, or just a weird, uncomfortable feeling the moment it happened. I could easily write it off as a reaction to what I saw. It probably was, but I swear it felt like the feeling came on at the exact same time as the pep disappeared, not as a reaction to it. If that makes any sense, but that's what my brain was able to put together in the few moments since it's happened. I'm gonna go to sleep now. Maybe I'm just dumb, and the pep will appear somewhere on the carpet, and I'll simply just have overlooked it. I don't think it will, though. I'm happy to answer any questions, although what questions people would have, lol. Story 4. A couple years ago, I was bartending at a busy brunch spot. We had everything on tap, including red and white sangria. In the middle of a rush, I ran out of red sangria and had no idea how to change the keg since I was new. I asked a coworker for help, and after opening the keg, we realized that it was white wine instead of red. Confused, he checked the other two kegs and they were all white wine. We called over a manager. He shined a flashlight into the keg and confirmed what we were seeing: white wine. He poured some into a cup and it was white. No doubt about it. Then he called over a second manager just to let him know that someone had placed all white wine instead of white and red. He looked inside the exact same keg, paused, and said, "That's red wine." We all looked again, and somehow it was red wine. My two co-workers and I stood there stunned. We were all 100% sure we had seen white wine just a minute ago. It felt like reality literally changed in front of us. We all looked at each other like we'd just seen a ghost. No one could explain it, and we never talked about it again. I only worked there for 2 months, but that moment has stuck with me. I still think about it. Story 5. The mysterious event occurred this past winter, but I started wearing the ring in question again and was recently reminded of how I almost lost it. A family member that I am now estranged from gave me a beautiful heirloom ring a decade ago. It has a setting similar to Aragorn's Ring of Barahir, and as a LOTR fan, she gifted it to me. I used to wear it every single day until this event. I live in the city and rely on public transit to get to from work. I also always wear gloves once the temperature dips low enough. I was sitting in an aisle seat directly across from the back door of the bus. As more people got on and the bus got warmer, I took my gloves off. On cue, like a bad joke, my ring went flying. I heard it ping-pong on the floor and spotted it just in time to watch it roll out the open door of the bus. It was standing room only, dark AF out and downtown. There was no way I was fighting my way up and out in time, or searching the streets in the dark at rush hour, so I made the conscious choice to let it go. The next day, ringless, I went into work. I shared the office with 3 other people. Allison, from another department, came in to drop off a package. I heard her shuffle around somewhere behind me before saying, "Oh, did anybody lose a ring?" I didn't even turn around because I knew where mine was, on the streets downtown somewhere. My 3 other coworkers denied owning the ring, so curiosity piqued. I turned around. I wish someone had photographed the look on my face when I saw her holding the ring I'd lost the night before. Unable to describe how improbable the entire situation was, I simply picked my ring back up and put it on. Told Allison thanks, and went about my day. I hadn't worn my ring since. It lived in my ring dish out of an inexplicable fear. Nothing like this has ever happened to me, and I doubt it will again. Whatever divine intervention occurred, I'll be forever thankful for to have my ring back. Story 6. Around 2018, I had a very strange, unexplainable experience. A little backstory as well. I lived alone in my mother's 4-bedroom home. She was a contractor and would be gone for several months at a time for work. I used to own a small duffel bag that could fit around 3 to 4 days of clothes for traveling. The last time I used the bag was December 2017 to visit my sister. I always, when returning, would stick the bag in my closet after taking everything out. January 2018 rolls around, and I have another trip. Like usual, I go to my closet, where I keep my duffel bag. The problem is, this time the bag is not there. My closet is not very big, and I had it set up this way. My starched jeans, about 10 pairs, hang to the right. My big suitcase is held up straight against the wall by the jeans. On top of my suitcase, I would always put my duffel bag. I tore my closet apart, but could not find my bag. This really perplexed me. After returning from my trip for days, I looked around the house. At this time, I couldn't imagine where it could have gone. It was literally nowhere to be found. I would tell everyone who would listen, and even went as far as accusing my sister of stealing it, which made no sense, because I definitely brought it back after visiting her. I was trying my hardest to rationalize where it could have been. For months, I brought it up to family, co-workers, clients. I was still freaked out. One day, my mother came back from work and wanted to redo her floors and paint the walls. This felt like the perfect opportunity to find my bag. I was tasked with removing everything from the rooms to the living room. Once the floors were redone and the walls painted, I would then put everything back. There is no way I wouldn't be able to find my bag after dismantling every room, right? Absolutely not the case. My bag was still nowhere to be found. I had given up and just remained freaked out by it. Fast forward to sometime around August 2018. I was asleep and home alone like usual. I can't remember the time, but maybe around 2 a.m. I heard a crash in my closet. Like something fell down. I had turned over and looked. I do not have a closet door, and seen that my suitcase had fallen over. At the time I didn't realize how crazy this is because my suitcase weighs like 7 pounds maybe and is cloth. It was being held in place by my jeans and pressed against the wall. I just rolled back over and told myself I'll deal with it when I wake up. The morning comes and I feel refreshed and decide to hit the gym before doing anything. I never even looked at my closet or acknowledged it. When I returned from the gym, I told myself I'd straighten my room up. The first place I decided to clean was my closet because of the suitcase that had fallen. Then the craziest thing happens. When I go into my room to start cleaning, I go to pick my suitcase up, and on top of it was my duffel bag that had been missing for months. I cannot explain how this happened or what even happened. I called everyone who I have talked to about it. Everyone thought I was crazy, of course, because how did it happen? It was really unexplainable. Sorry if my grammar or anything sucks, but I finally decided to tell this story. Not sure why I've always been nervous to tell people. I always felt like something happened that I wasn't supposed to know about. Or a glitch. Story 7. This happened years ago, but what just happened with my cups, last post, reminded me. Me and my friend went for a walk, got in my car. Suddenly my car was reversing quickly backwards, nearly crashing, and I was trying to brake, but it wasn't working, and I was shouting. I snapped out of it and realized I was still parked with my friend. She was sat on her phone normally. I was shaking from adrenaline and said, "What the fuck just happened?" She was like, "What?" Apparently we'd been sat in the car, nothing had happened. I was shaking, heart racing still. I didn't imagine it. I think about it daily, and it's been 3 years. Story 8. This was a few years ago, when I was still in university. It was night, right after my Russian language club meeting, and my dad picked me up from the campus. I can't drive. We decided we'd bring pizza home, but on the way to Pizza Hut there was road construction, and we were forced to take a detour through a suburb. It was a big neighborhood, and we were driving for a while and couldn't find the way out. Went in circles a few times. Then we drove up a street that was on a slight upward incline, and from the height we both saw traffic lights, cars, and the top of a gas station straight ahead, finally the exit. When we continued forward, and of course lost sight of the traffic lights on the descent down the hill, we did indeed exit the neighborhood. But there were no traffic lights, no gas station, absolutely nothing of the sort even nearby, so it wasn't a case of something further than it seemed. Just dark, empty field, and the neighborhood itself behind us. It was such a bizarre experience, and my dad and I both still talk about it. Story 9. This happened in Bucharest in the mid-2000s, and it's my go-to weird glitch in the Matrix story that I cannot explain. It's 11 p.m. on a Friday. I'm driving home, and I get a call from my best friend. It's someone else on the line telling me my friend is extremely drunk, acting like an idiot in a bar, and if it's possible to come and get him as people are calling the cops, and he doesn't want to leave. I go to the Old Town Center. I see my buddy with 3 of his university buddies outside of the bar, and they're completely wasted. There's a police car parked in front of me, but it's traffic police. So the cops are just watching me collect these messes and struggle to get them in the car. One of them throws up on the sidewalk. I'm stressed as earlier that day I had already gotten a ticket. I did a small mistake in the Victory Eye roundabout during rush hour. I'm being specific as this place will come up later. And the cop decided to make an example out of me and really scared me a bit. So I managed to get them in the car, and the moment I start the car the cops block me and they check me for alcohol. They make me blow in the tester. They check my papers and stuff, and one of the cops is really trying to give me a ticket for anything. He's now saying I'm not supposed to be on this specific road or something like that. It's bullshit. He just wants to burn me. But the other cop comes and tells him to let me go because I had already gotten a traffic ticket that day, and apparently they couldn't give me 2 tickets for minor traffic violations in 24 hours, which is a rule I've never heard of before or since then. This was mildly weird, but not glitch in the Matrix stuff. Anyway, I drive them to the opposite part of town where they lived in the student complex. No more incidents. It's now about 12:15 a.m. and I'm driving home. I get to Piazza Victory Eye, which is the absolute central point of the city. It's a huge square that's a roundabout from which every main boulevard of the city starts. So each exit from this square/roundabout is a huge 6-lane boulevard, and each boulevard takes you to a different neighborhood, and each boulevard is very unique looking, and it's very well marked. So it's almost impossible for someone who lives in this city to take the wrong exit in this place. It's also 12:30 a.m. by now, and it's completely empty, so zero traffic or anything that could distract me to take the wrong exit. I enter the roundabout, I see my exit, and I take it like I've previously done it hundreds of times. I get on the boulevard, but I immediately know this is not my boulevard. It's a completely different one that takes me in a very wrong direction. The only option I have is to turn around to the square. I say, okay, that's weird, but okay, I've had a very long day, was in university, and I also worked. The 2 police encounters, both very stressful, almost 2 tickets, the whole commotion with the drunk friends. I turn around, go back in the roundabout, drive until my exit again, take my exit, and I'm on the other boulevard again, same thing as first time. I say, okay, I'm a complete dumbass for doing this. I need to focus now. Turn around, get into the roundabout, drive until my exit, take my exit. I'm focused now on all the details. But nope, I'm on the other boulevard again. Now I start to get annoyed at myself. I start screaming in the car out of frustration. I turn around, get into the roundabout, drive slowly. I get to my exit slowly. I take my exit slowly and focused and sharp and clear, and I'm on the other boulevard again. This is freaking me out by now, as you can imagine. 2 hours I spent there doing the same thing, and I haven't seen one person or one car in that time, which is another strange thing from that night. I don't believe there's ever been 2 hours in that place without a car passing. This is literally the epicenter of traffic in a city with 2+ million people. I was having a breakdown. I was almost crying from anger at the end, screaming my lungs out every time it happened, and then I finally got my exit, and I found myself on my street, and in 5 minutes I was home, and the clock said 2:40 a.m. I simply cannot explain it. I had a phone, but it was late and I was very angry, and I really didn't know how to explain to someone what was happening. It would have sounded like I'm on drugs, or I'm having a psychotic episode, and I didn't want to make a bigger deal out of it. Plus it seemed like such a stupid problem to have. I just couldn't express it or explain it, and I still can't. Thank you for reading. All the best. Story 10. Anyone else experienced an elevator glitch? I still think about this, and it bothers me. Years ago, I lived on the 44th floor of a huge condo building. The view was incredible, but the elevators were always a pain. One day, I was with my boyfriend coming back from the store. We got into the elevator with another woman, who got off on the 10th floor. I distinctly remember glancing at the floor number as she got off. Then the elevator definitely went up for the same period of time it usually does to reach my floor. I'd lived there for years at this point, and was accustomed to its rhythms. I felt the sensations in my body of movement clear as day. It eventually came to a stop and opened the doors again, and we got off and got all the way to my door. Every floor layout is the same, so we went to the northeast corner as usual, only to realize when my key wouldn't work that we were still on the 10th floor, not the 44th. We were dumbstruck. If it had just been me, I would have written it off, but we were both 100% convinced the elevator moved upwards a significant distance after stopping at the 10th floor. It did not stand still, and it did not go up and back down again. It went up. We talked about it for ages and went around in circles, but couldn't come up with an explanation besides both hallucinating the same thing. Story 11. A few years ago, one of my online friends got a new PC. I know this happened, not just because I remember her posting excitedly about it on Facebook, but because I literally connected to it remotely to help her set things up. I saw her specs, helped her configure some stuff, and even remember thinking how nice of an upgrade it was compared to the old laptop she used to complain about. We don't really talk consistently anymore, but we still message each other occasionally to catch up. About 6 months ago was the last time we spoke, until just the other day, when I reached out and asked if she wanted to play some Minecraft with me. She joined me, and we played for a bit like we used to together. Nowadays, I'm really into VR chat, so I asked if she'd want to try it out with me and some of my other friends sometime. She said she couldn't. Her laptop is like 10 years old and can't run it. I was confused, so I said, "Wait, didn't you get a new PC a while back?" And she just said, "No, I never did." I thought she was messing with me at first. But no, she genuinely acted like it never happened. I even went back to try to find the Facebook post she made about it, and it's gone. No pictures, no comments, no sign it was ever there. The only thing I could find is a post about her new desk, which she got at the same time as her PC. But I remember helping her set it up. I remember what the post said. I remember checking her specs myself. And now nothing. I'm honestly extremely confused regarding the whole situation. Story 12. Today at work, I experienced something I can't explain and have no answer to. I am not a huge believer of we're living in a simulation, but it's hard not to agree with that after today. I am an electrician, and I worked with my brother, and the new guy who we can call Daniel was downstairs cleaning, and this was at the end of the day. We wanted to get the heck out of the job site. I was in bedroom 1, and my brother was in master bathroom. Then I heard footsteps going down, I assumed. My brother was done on what he was doing. I was working on putting a light fixture up till I heard my brother calling me from master bedroom. I found it weird because I just heard footsteps going down, and yes, it just me, Daniel, and my brother on the job site. Then I went to master bedroom and saw my brother. Was my mind playing tricks on me? I heard footsteps going downstairs, and I know it couldn't been Daniel's because he was downstairs, and even if it was him going upstairs, he would have said something, and plus he told me didn't go upstairs after we had lunch, and he promised and seemed serious. Also, you can tell the difference between footsteps coming up and downstairs. It 100% sounded like it was downstairs, but when I walked into the room, my brother was there, and he told me to look on how he was installing an outlet, something I knew how to do. So I found it weird. Then he just stopped, frozen time. I thought he was waiting for me to give him something, and I said, "Ah, plate right," and still didn't say anything. I thought he was messing around, but he stood there. It felt like a minute, no face expression, nothing, but whatever. So I assumed he needed a plate for the outlet he was installing. And then when I went downstairs, Daniel told me, "Are you done up there?" And I said, "Just one more light fixture," and he, my brother, is doing one last outlet. Then he said, "Really? I thought he was done 10 minutes ago." And assuming this guy was new, he didn't know, so I said, "Ha, not yet, Amsat, he is doing an outlet." Then we gave me a look. "What do you mean he is outside putting stuff in his van?" Then I went outside to surely see my brother there. How was that possible? He was just upstairs. And I asked, "Did you do that outlet already?" He said, "What outlet?" I said, "The one upstairs you had me look at you do." He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And after that, I didn't want to look like a fool, so I just started to clean up. Kinda was creeped out had Daniel come upstairs with me to clean up, but just wanted someone there with me. Then when I was done doing the light fixture, I wanted to see if that outlet was done, and to my surprise, nothing was touched, and I could have swore he already stripped the wire and had the wire already hooked up to the outlet, and when I left he was screwing in the outlet till he completely stopped. Then I cleaned up and had to ask him again, "Did you not want to do that outlet in the master bedroom by the window?" And he told me, "I didn't even get to the outlets today." And I asked, "Well, the one you were going to install, did you just take that outlet off?" He once again said, "I didn't or nor have even did any type of outlets today," which was true. I then told him what I experienced and laughed and just said, "You need more sleep." My brother isn't the type of person to mess around with me, especially how confused and how it was making me go crazy. I can't explain what happened, but there can be many things to explain what happened. Am I the one who is going crazy? I am extremely paranoid RN, and can't sleep. I've been looking around my room in bed, waiting for something or someone to pop up. Story 13. Something really strange and bizarre happened tonight. Me and my partner were watching TV in our living room when our cat made a mad dash for the guest room in the back of the house. Since we moved into this house, the cat has shown zero interest in this room, as it is basically empty. But he was urgently searching for something, as if he was hunting. He was sniffing around and looking out the windows, just completely spazzing out. I noticed a strange noise that could be heard from within the walls of the guest room. I called my girlfriend over, and she heard it too, agreeing that the sound appeared to be coming from within the walls. Our house is old, and it was raining outside, so I thought raindrops were hitting a plant or a gutter and making a weird noise, but the noise was unnaturally rhythmic. It sounded like 3 taps, like water dripping on a tin can, and then a sawing noise, like a serrated blade dragging through wood. Tink, tink, tink. SHHHK, SHHHK, SHHHK. Pause for 2 seconds. Repeat. Over and over again. I walked all over the house, inside and out, and the sound was the loudest from the guest room walls. Eventually the sound just stopped, and the cat left the bedroom. I returned to the living room, sat down on the couch, and pulled my phone out from my pocket. I opened the TikTok app, and the first video that popped up was a man cutting through limes all the way through the cutting board. He then began tapping a stainless steel cocktail shaker. I realized the sound from this TikTok video was the exact same sound that was emanating from my walls in the guest bedroom. If my phone was off and in my pocket the whole time, how the hell was the TikTok sound coming from my walls? Story 14. I think I just experienced my first real glitch in the Matrix, and it's been messing with my head ever since. Maybe someone here can offer an explanation, or at least let me know I'm not alone in this kind of experience. Last year, I bought a 23-foot motorboat. If you've ever owned a boat, You know it's a lot of work, especially after winter, to get everything cleaned, inspected, and ready for the putting the boat back in the water. Earlier this spring, I spent 2 full days at the boatyard doing just that. I took down the winter pressing cover, polished the hull, did some minor engine maintenance, and carefully inspected everything to plan my to-do list for the season. One issue jumped out right away, and it got me seriously concerned. The teak decking needed attention. As is common on boats, my decking is made of teak slats with black Sikaflex rubber between each seam. What I saw wasn't just wear and tear, it was obvious and very visible. Several strings had come loose and were hanging out of their seams. The rubbery strings of Sikaflex weren't just loose in their seams, they were literally hanging out of the seams like spaghetti. Not just on one part of the boat, but both on the foredeck and the bathing platform at the stern. I remember staring at it, poking at it, and thinking, I really need to fix this before any water gets underneath the teak. I looked at it from multiple angles on several occasions, both days I was there, and mentally added it to my growing list of projects. I knew this wasn't something to put off. If water got underneath, it could eventually lead to the entire teak deck needing to be replaced, which would be a huge and expensive job. So, over the following weeks, I did my homework. I read DIY guides, watched videos, and researched the best way to fix the seams properly. I went ahead and bought the materials, marine tape, a caulk gun, Sikaflex, scrapers, all of it, probably about $100 total. I was ready. Last weekend, I went back out to the boat, fully expecting to spend a chunk of the day redoing the Sikaflex seams. I started on the foredeck. I crouched down, ready to assess the damage again, and everything looked fine. Not someone's patched this up fine. It looked like it had never needed repairs in the first place. The seams were uniform, neat, sealed. No sign of any hanging rubber. I was confused but thought maybe I'd misremembered which part of the boat had the issue. So I walked back to the bathing platform, expecting that to be where the loose seams were. Same thing. Perfectly intact Sikaflex. No visible gaps. No dangling spaghetti-like strings. I crouched down again and examined the seams up close, trying to find cracks or any signs that something had shifted or resealed itself, but there was nothing. No signs of repair, no residue, no unevenness, nothing to suggest the Sikaflex had ever been pulled out or disturbed. And just to be clear, this wasn't a case of me confusing new damage with old wear. What I had originally seen was unmistakable. Those strings of Sikaflex were literally hanging completely out of their seams, and I checked them multiple times over those 2 days. I stood there for a while just scratching my head, trying to make sense of it. No one else has access to the boat. I didn't hire anyone to fix it. I didn't even tell anyone it needed fixing. It's not like the loose strings could just fall perfectly back into place and rebond themselves, especially without a single crack or seam showing it ever happened. It's like the issue just never existed, as if I slipped into a slightly different version of reality where my deck was always fine. I still can't explain it. Has anyone else experienced anything like this? I'm open to logical explanations, but it honestly felt like reality corrected itself. Or I stepped sideways into another timeline where my deck never had a problem in the first place. Story 15. My son and I were in the checkout line after grocery shopping. The lines were kind of long, not too bad, but there was a bit of a wait. The customer in front of us was a tall black guy, and in his cart, he had like 3 packs of paper towels and a few frozen dinners. It reminded me that I needed paper towels. I left my son in line and went to grab paper towels. It took maybe 35 seconds. But by the time I came back, my son was starting to put our items on the conveyor belt, and the guy who was in front of us, his items were being scanned by cashier. Only now the guy was a really tall white guy, like short blonde hair, blue-eyed white guy, and he had on the same outfit the black guy was wearing, and all the groceries were the same as his basket that I had seen earlier. I just thought I was going crazy, but in the car I said to my son, "Did you notice the guy in line in front of us?" I was going to say I could have sworn it was a black guy, but my son said, "Yes, and I'm tripping because I legit swear it was a black guy," but then he somehow turned into a white guy. Before I could finish my sentence, both the white guy and black guy were very tall, much taller than anyone else in line, so you would definitely notice if 2 super tall men dressed alike would be in line, like if maybe they were both there the entire time. It was just weird, and also the fact that we both experienced the same possible glitch. Story 16. Today I went to pick up my daughter from school and bring her to her father's house. On the way there I knew I needed to go to the bank after I dropped her off. She asked if we could get coffee before I dropped her off, and then the errand of going to the bank skipped my mind, and after I dropped her off I went home. Within 5 minutes of me being home, I remembered, oh crap, I need to go to the bank to withdraw money to pay rent. So I grab my keys and purse leave home again to go to the bank. As I walk up to the teller with my withdrawal slip, she's looking at me with a very confused look. And then when I hand her the slip and my ID, she almost jumped back and her face was even more confused looking. She glanced at me, and then my ID, and then back at me. I was almost thinking she didn't think my ID looked like me. And she said, "I'm so sorry, but weren't you just here for this transaction?" And I laughed, and so no, I certainly wasn't, I just got here. She processed the withdrawal, all the while it seemed like she thought I was fucking with her, like one of those videos you see on the internet with identical twins. I do not have a twin. Should I ask to see security footage? Do you think they'll show me or think I'm crazy, lol? If I had gone at the time I had planned to go, and had not forgotten, I would have in fact just been there.